My article is about Wisconsin. So this is from Source NM, published hot off the press in the last 24 hours. Without further ado, Wisconsin tribe watching presidential race for cannabis law reform as state maintains prohibition. Legalization is a sovereignty issue, tribal officials say. Milwaukee, a leader with the Lac Corte Aurelis band of Lake Superior, Chippewa, said lifting federal prohibition on marijuana would allow for the sovereign nation to enter the billion-dollar industry sweeping the country. Cannabis in all forms except for CBD products is illegal in Wisconsin. Bordering states Minnesota, Michigan, and Illinois all allow recreational sales. This locks Lac Corte Aurelis out of the market, says Bill Trapanier, the tribe secretary and treasurer. The states surrounding us, they have all gone legal, and there's a lot of tax money leaving the state. And we're just wondering why the state of Wisconsin is not really making a move here, he said. Trapanier joined radio news show Native American Calling on Monday during the Republican National Convention in Wisconsin to discuss what his tribe would like to see the U.S. government achieve for tribal nations across the country. Cannabis legalization is a sovereignty issue, he said, and until Wisconsin lawmakers act on reform, all 11 tribal governments in the state will be restricted from creating marijuana businesses as other tribes in the country have. We've got about 80,000 acres on a reservation, Trapanier said. We're always trying to grow our land base. We have a lot of forests and lakes and streams here. It's a very beautiful place. Until federal law changes, the U.S. president can direct his administration to either harshly prosecute marijuana infractions, as President Donald Trump did with his first attorney general appointee, Jeff Sessions, or he could deprioritize enforcement and lessen penalties, as is the policy under President Joe Biden, who also pardoned thousands of people convicted of marijuana possession under federal law. In states that have legalized the recreational use of marijuana, like New Mexico, tribes are active in the industry, growing, operating, and investing in businesses. New Mexico not only changed state law, but set agreements that allowed tribes in the state to follow that law despite the federal restrictions. An administration change in the U.S. government could harm those businesses. For instance, on the Piqueras Pueblo, that must be a reservation, federal agents raided a marijuana grow in 2017 that was supported by tribal leaders there. Now, with the support of the New Mexico government, Piqueras, a remote community high in the Rocky Mountains, has cannabis businesses in Santa Fe, the state capital. La Corte Aurelis band will not have an ally in altering federal law, with U.S. Representative Derek Van Orden, R. Wisconsin. Orden serves a 3rd district just north of the La Corte, though he does not represent Ho-Chunk Nation, which decriminalized marijuana arrests this year. I do not support the legalization of recreational marijuana, Van Orden said in an interview at the convention Tuesday. Medical marijuana should never have been made legal, ever. That is across the board. While Van Orden won't advocate for legalization in Congress, he also said he won't interfere with or attack sovereign laws if the Ho-Chunk or any other tribe are in line with U.S. laws and policies. It's something he would want to study more. Oh, we've heard that a lot. He said, along with better understanding Native relations with the U.S. government. If the Ho-Chunks want to do one thing and it's in alignment, we're good, Van Orden said. I'm an American citizen, so if the Ho-Chunks are doing this as a sovereign nation, I don't know where the constitutional line is there. Okay. So that's my article this morning. And let me kick this off by just, again, allowing me to riff here and poke a bunch of holes in this Swiss cheese article. Okay, for starters, if tribes are sovereign nations, then taking cannabis from a tribal land into other parts of the United States is the same as international drug smuggling. There are no protections for that. There are many other tribes in other states that are already participating in state legal cannabis programs. They don't need any change at the federal level to do that. This gentleman is suggesting that he needs a change on the federal level, not because he needs a change on the federal level, but because the immediate surrounds in the state in which his reservation is venued doesn't have a cannabis program that will allow them a more efficient monetization of cannabis they could produce on their sovereign lands. So I take big issue with this because I believe that this gentleman, Trapanier, is framing this in a way that is incorrect. tribes have been participating in cannabis for a very long time. There has been no change in federal law, and it hasn't stopped them from trying to find a way to weave through the labyrinth of risks and opportunities to be able to participate. So I think this gentleman is really trying to take advantage of the press he can get with the Republican National Convention being in his state. But I do not agree that tribes need federal change in order to participate. Would it be good if that happened? Great, but we haven't been holding our breath for that, and neither should he. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News. I'd like to hear what my other guests think.
Well, Mr. Yarrow Kubrin. I mean, so what you're telling me is that before they enact any policy within their tribe, they want to wait or for a signal from the federal government. Am I correct on all of this, Yarrow?
That's what they're saying. But the truth is, if they were in a state that already had a state legal program, they would already be participating because they would be able to balance the
They don't need that. They don't need that. They're a tribal land. They could start their own program. Right. They don't need any government to tell them anything to do.
That's right. That's right. So I would say respectfully, it's a bunch of bullshit what this gentleman is saying. Or as Dale would say,
you know what I think?
Shit.
I think you know what I think.
Up a rope. Dale, what do you want to kick it off with?
This is horseshit and bullshit combined, because this tribe can grow cannabis on their tribal land for consumption and sale on their tribal lands. Now, if someone decides to take their weed and leave, and it's going to be up to the local government or perhaps the feds to be there at the exit and search them to see if they're leaving there with weed, which I doubt they'll do. I think you're right, Yarrow. This guy's just trying to beat a drum for some attention. And tribes as sovereign nations have a lot of power. I just don't know if they're ready for the fight.
I wonder if there's some kind of kickback that the tribe is going to get in federal funds for taking this position.
Well, it is true that tribes benefit from federal funds. They also benefit from the infrastructure of the states in which they're venued, such as emergency medical services, police support, hospitals, and most importantly, utilities. So there's always been a delicate dance between the notion of sovereignty versus the reality of sovereignty. But there are many tribes in many states who are not speaking to the press and saying they need change at the federal level and are navigating the complexities and figuring out ways to participate.
Maybe this tribe got paid off by Project Sam.
This article reminds me of something I heard Ice Cube say. Don't get upset at the money you didn't make for the work you didn't do.
I thought you were going to say, bitch, better have my money.
I thought you were going to say, if you're scared, go to church.
Or even today was a good day.
or even no Vaseline.
Oh. I mean, well,
it's good we have a library of Ice Cube quotes in case we want to weave those in elsewhere.
I wonder if they ever see the Goodyear blimp above this reservation.
I wonder if Donald Trump is going to resurrect, the Black Platinum plan.
Oh boy!
Ice Cube gave.
Just wait long enough, he's going to go there, right? I mean, this whole thing, though. I feel like this. Would he be called the chief of this tribe? Would he be considered the chief, or is he just what's his actual title, Yarrow? He's just a spokesperson. Do we know? We don't know.
He's the secretary and treasurer.
He's the secretary and treasurer. Well, sounds like he should go back to taking notes on how policy actually works. And so then that way he would know that his tribe could actually benefit from the rewards of selling cannabis on his tribal grounds, regardless of any type of state or federal policy change. He should take that to the bank.
I think it's an interesting balance because people like to have their cake and eat it too. And tribes want sovereignty, but they don't want sovereignty.
They have sovereignty regardless, though.
They want to tap into that U.S. power grid. They want to tap into that U.S. power grid. They're not sovereign then. They want to benefit from emergency medical services and police services and all of the other things that could be of benefit, as well as tribal funding. And I got no problems with that. Like, hey, smallpox fucking in blankets sucked. I get it. You need your land back. And it would be nice if you had more opportunity than just a casino here and there. And if you want tribal sovereignty, then technically cannabis leaving the reservation is no different than if I packed up a big cargo container of cannabis from Colombia and I unloaded it at the New York, Los Angeles, or Oakland Harbor.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Any final thoughts on this, Dale or Rico?
Well, leaving there from private citizens is different than the tribe packing up a container and taking it into Milwaukee to sell it. But
is there really a difference though, Dale? I don't think there's a difference. It's a difference between a possession and a trafficking charge. I think is probably the only thing. But either way, you're still trafficking.
Well, but the tribe's not. If the tribe's sending it off the reservation with their fingerprints on it, that's a different story.
That's what I'm saying.
You go there and buy weed, and you're a private citizen that decides I'm going back to my home in Milwaukee and I'm taking some weed with me. I don't know how that directly implicates the tribe.
Well,
I don't know if the tribes are ready for the...
It's just like how back in the day when people would get caught selling drugs and they'd be like, who'd you get this from? Da 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 da. And then the police would try to use that to get a search warrant to be able to go and search those premises. Now, granted, they're not going to be able to get a warrant to go and search on the reservation, but nonetheless, they can view the tribe as an enabler in illicit sales.
Of course they can. What are they going to do about it? And I just don't know that this tribe's ready for the fight it's going to have. There's still a lot of pushback inside the federal government not to move forward with legalization of cannabis, scheduling or descheduling. So, I mean, it's still not a clean enterprise to be involved in.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And Michael Minardi, who is a lawyer in Florida and has been on the show previously, says that they couldn't implicate the tribe if they bought it on legal tribal lands. Yeah, but I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that because I do know of cases of people getting pulled over, leaving reservations with weed, and them getting charged with basically crossing a border with a controlled substance.
I mean, since I quoted Ice Cube, I'll just riff right into a TLC lyric, or just stick to the peyote and the fields that you're used to.
You got to cover your left eye though if you're going to say it.
Yeah, but Jason, what you're talking about is the person leaving the reservation. You're not talking about the federal government going in with a search warrant.
Oh yeah, no,
agent.
they can't do that. They can't do that. They can't do that. They would be violating too many federal laws in order to do that.
Yeah, but let's talk about Wounded Knee. I mean, they'll do what they want to do when they want to do it.
Oh boy, there we go. We're not going to go down this rabbit hole. We are going to go to a commercial, and we are going to be right back.